I would rather risk being sued and being a gatekeeper for patients and finding hundreds, if not thousands of problems over my career because a kid would be walking around without vision because nobody's taking an x-ray because medical radiation is so much higher. So we become primary gatekeepers in these people's lives that nobody else is ever going to see what we're finding. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the OrthoPreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Glenn Krieger, and today we have somebody who arguably has the greatest three truths and a lie you'll ever hear in your life. I'll tell them to you in a little bit, folks, but let me first welcome to the party, Ty Ramsey. Welcome, Ty.
Thanks, Glenn. Happy to be here. Always happy to chat with you about a variety of topics, which we've done.
Yeah, and if you hear Ty's accent, he's clearly from the Northeast.
Yes, I'm not Tom Bodette from Motel 6, but that's
He's also really funny if you haven't noticed. But I will keep a light on for you. And for those watching, I did go as close as I could get the burnt orange for you, Ty.
Thanks.
Because if y'all are watching, you can see he is a big Texas fan. Which, by the way, I think we're gonna have a great year ahead of us this year, for the first time in a while. So, Ty, I've known you a little while, but let's have you introduce yourself a little bit and tell everybody who are you, what do you do today, and how'd you kind of get there in that short elevator speech, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Been in the dental business, dental industry. Graduated from University of Texas back in the 90s, and then got in the dental space 2004, 2005. I worked for a company that morphed into what is now the iTero scanner. At the time, they were called OrthoCAD, and their number one source, this dates me very much, but their number one source of revenue was you would pour up a stone model and mail them a stone model. They would digitize that and send you back that digital file at the tune of $40 a pop.
I remember those days.
Yeah. Did that for about 3 years, did really well there. And then my good friend, who was my sales manager there, got in the cone beam industry, and I got some eyes on that and decided, wow, this is something that can really make a difference, something that can make a difference in how doctors practice. And I followed him over there and ended up, almost 14 years in the cone beam industry, and sold over 800 cone beams, over $80 million in sales in cone beams. And so became quite a subject matter expert on that. Felt like I helped make a difference in orthodontics just through not me, but the product. And I was able to get the product out there. And it actually has having the 3D technology and seeing the upper airway, lower airway, all that, it's actually changed the practice protocol for many orthodontists. And many of your orthopreneurs will tell you that as well, as you probably will. And then from there, like I said, I've done over 800 of them, and then I have to credit my current situation partially to you. You had when you were evaluating the DSO situation and all of the everyone looking at DSOs and trying to decide what they want to do. You had called me and said, "Hey, you ought to look at this space. This is you're the consummate sales professional, and I can't think of anyone better for this space than you." So I kind of started looking at it part-time, and picked up a couple of just kind of consulted with a couple of people and was able to help them out. And then in February decided I'm going to go out and I'm going to be an independent consultant. So now that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a number of things, but I'm doing sales coaching. I'm doing a little bit in the 3D printing space as well. That's a very interesting space, but most of my time is being spent in the practice transitions and mergers and acquisitions space. And it's been very, very rewarding for me because I've been able to create some generational wealth, and it's all about helping people still for me. I like to create generational wealth for people and actually improve people's quality of life. So that's what this position has allowed me to do.
And I'm here to tell people that I did connect with no financial interest whatsoever, because I like connecting people. About 18 months ago, I did connect Ty with a brokerage firm or a company that does a lot of OSO, DSO kind of sales, because I felt that in getting to know him over the years with ICAT, personally, was where I first met him. He was always honest. He was always fair to me. He was always my advocate. And he always gave me tips and tricks to make what I was doing, even after the purchase. He was my go-to guy. If I had a question about looking at something, doing something, question about the radiation levels, questions about the settings, he was always there for me. Even when he left the company, he was always there for me. And I just felt like if I was going to go into that space, there's some good people in the OSO, DSO sales space. And just like orthodontics, I believe that there's so much low-hanging fruit. There's so much opportunity that anybody in that space who goes, I need to be the only one, is probably mistaken. And I felt that you'd be a really good resource for people out there because your commitment to helping people. So kudos for that, Ty.
Well, thank you.
I know that's your social capital that keeps you going, is helping people. And by the way, for everybody out there, I just want to tell you now, don't answer it now, Ty. Answer it at the end of this interview.
Okay.
When I sat down with Ty for the first time, I still remember where it was. I still remember when we had dinner. We had first time in my life I ever played Two Truths and a Lie, right? Where you tell two truths about yourself and put one lie in there. And, somebody has to figure out which is the truth and which is the lie. Well, it ended up being four, three truths and a lie. And I'll tell you, if I remember correctly, Ty, I'll tell everybody what the three truths and a lie were. And at the end, later, you can tell people which is the lie, because they're incredible. Okay. He has a World Series of Poker bracelet that he's won. That was one of them, right? You were once featured on an episode of Cops, right? Number three, you were in not the World Trade Center when it went down on 9/11.
Yes.
And number four, there's two of them. There's actually five, because number four was you once had a date kidnapped while you were on a date with them and caught the guy who ended up going to prison. That's number four. And number five was you were once national putt-putt champion. Did I get those right? Did I get all five right?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
the one, yeah, I'll tell.
The one that I didn't get perfectly right had to do with the 9/11, right?
Let's wait till the end.
Wait till the end. But I'm just telling you, I'm circling the drain here. I'm close, right?
Yes, very close.
So
very
just
close.
Think about that, people. This is a guy I'm interviewing right now who potentially only one of these is untrue. He's national putt-putt champion. He was in 9/11 on the day they went down. He was in the World Trade Center on 9/11, the day they went down. He had a date kidnapped from him, and the gentleman was caught and ultimately serving life in prison, I think it was. He was featured on a show of Cops, getting arrested, and he's won a World Series of Poker bracelet. That is a really impressive. The only guy who I know better.
I'm not a lowlife, everyone.
You're not. He's not a lowlife. Dr. Ron Ronconi, who's been on this, his two truths and a lie are really solid as well. I think it came down to something like he's visited Italy like 37 times. He's thrown a 300, bowled a 300 and threw a no-hitter using each of his two arms. Like crazy stuff. Wow. So anyway, at the end of the interview, I'll let you tell people which is the one that's untrue. Okay. And I already know the answer. Okay. Because I know what kind of guy you are.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit first about CBCT. Let's jump into that, because while that's not necessarily your world anymore, there really is nobody I know who's more knowledgeable on not interpretation, but the setting up and the taking of a CBCT. And I'm thrilled that next year, we've already talked about at Orlando, it got out, in Orlando Summit in 2023, September 6th through 10th of next year, you're going to give a team-only track lecture, because next year we're going to have team-only track as well. I think it's going to be take your Ferrari out of the garage, right? Which essentially is going to be teaching teams how to use their CBCT, not only how to take a good CBCT, which I think they need a course in, but how to use it to really grow people's practices, and how to use the team as their advocates using CBCT to help a practice really grow, right?
Correct.
So you've sold 800 CBCTs. talk to us a little bit about some of the most common mistakes or misconceptions people have when they buy a CBCT, or, like, hey, I'm just going to take x-rays and that's that. What are some of the biggest mistakes or misunderstandings that people have when they get a CBCT,
Yeah.
irrespective of brand?
Probably some of the biggest mistakes, and these are becoming less and less. People are becoming more educated, but probably the number one is I don't want to overdose everyone and radiation. There are tons of studies out there, and the radiation does vary somewhat between all levels, but on the radiation, if a kid bumps his head and goes to the emergency room and he gets a head CT. And doctors do that routinely every day. There's a study that showed over 60,000 patients getting a head CT, and the number that they were proud of delivering, the radiation amount to the head was something like 2,500 microsieverts of radiation, and they do it all the time to little kids. And then, dentists, when they're doing a CBCT, it's going to, in general, broad brush, but in general, range anywhere from just 5 microsieverts to about 250 microsieverts in general. This was from a lecture that I attended a few years ago, but there had never been an instance in court where there had been a causal relationship between any dental radiograph and cancer. And if you just do the research on all of that, disclaimer, I'm not a, expert at that, but I've done the research and I'm just quoting articles and whatnot that I've seen. But if anyone does the research on that, radiation is probably the biggest misconception. As the technology improves, and the radiation actually continues to get lower, and the images, have continued to get better.
Yeah. By the way, well, on that topic, you're not selling CBCTs anymore, correct?
No, that's correct. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm not.
So I want people to understand, you're not listening to a salesman trying to sell you a CBCT. He has no vested interest if you buy a CBCT. He literally gets asked this question by every orthodontist. Now, maybe you don't trust him. He doesn't have doctor in front of his name. If you saw the OrthoPreneurs University course with Dr. Shiva Tagyani, which happened in the first half of 2022, she is one of the lead radiologists at Beam Readers. She said the same thing, that anybody who makes the argument, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, that radiation is the reason they're not getting a CBCT, it's an outdated argument. So she actually does have doctor and board certified in her name. And if you listen to her lecture, she will tell you it's a big misconception. And you should go watch that lecture. It's one of the greatest oral radiology lectures that's out there. And you just go to orthopreneurs.com and go click on her link and take that course. And it'll be 5 hours of education on learning about CBCTs and on seeing the most common findings, both in 2 and 3D. So I agree with you 100%. Rotating that conversation or pivoting a bit, what's the biggest mistake most orthodontists used in terms of not using their CBCT? Now, again, those out there who want to be haters, when I say about CBCT being for sales and growing a practice, I told you that's what it's all about, right? But we know that if you're going to pay a lot for technology, it needs to make money. You just don't do it because you're Mother Teresa. And
well, some people do. I mean, a nice side effect of that is that a lot of times you do make more money.
No, I mean, there's tons of technology out there we bring in because it's the right technology for our practice.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to put in a $120,000 machine or a $150,000 machine unless it makes financial sense, because that's a significant amount of money, because I could make the argument that my 2D works fine, right?
Exactly.
So if you're going to bring a 3D into your office and use it properly and help people get better diagnoses, which I truly believe is the case, to treat people better, which I truly believe is the case, what's the one biggest mistake people make in terms of the practice management usage of a CBCT?
Yeah, and you're a great example, because if you remember our initial conversation, you said, well, Ty, I have this great pan-ceph, and my practice is doing pretty well, and I'm treating by ABO standards, and why do I need this? And then what you just said, you truly believe you can treat patients better now. It's just a matter of being able to see everything in 3D and be able to assess not only the dentition, but the upper airway and lower airway, and being able to, which allows you to partner maybe with ENTs, with other practitioners, to take a collaborative approach and a whole health approach to orthodontics. So if I had to categorize Glenn Krieger, I'd say, Glenn Krieger, you're not just a tooth straightener, you are a life improver. And one of the things that you do is straighten teeth, but you also do a lot more with your cone beam. Like in many cases, the child ends up breathing better, getting off Ritalin.
Or I find a mucus retention cyst, or I find sinus. You know how many times I have found silent sinus syndrome in kids? And I've looked at the Ceph or pan reconstruction, and I did not see it. And I had one parent who thanked me because the ENT who I referred them to said, we saved their vision. That had we not caught it, this kid would have lost sight in one eye. For sure.
I've got so many stories like that over the years. I can give you 100 stories like that.
And people are scared. People are scared of not being able. They're afraid. Most common is, I don't want to be sued for not reading. And again, that all goes out the window. Okay, there's not 100% truth to that statement. And I would rather risk being sued and being a gatekeeper for patients and finding hundreds, if not thousands of problems over my career, and risk being sued, which I can't be, but I would take that trade-off all day long, because a kid would be walking around without vision because nobody's taking an x-ray because medical radiation is so much higher. So we become primary gatekeepers in these people's lives that nobody else is ever going to see what we're finding.
Exactly. The kid would have to get a medical CT to get the information you want. The first time you showed your ENT your scans, I'm guessing he was basically salivating, saying, send me all these that you can, because this is incredible. I can't expose all my kids to see medical CTs. You have the power. Send it to me in 3D.
That's what he said. I thought it was BS. I was sending them to him, and I thought he was just sort of placating, like, oh, you did great, thank you. And he said to me, I didn't get one the other day. I said, do you really look at these? He goes, you have no idea the role they play in my diagnosis, because I'm not sending him for medical grade CT. And it sometimes saves me from having to do an endoscopy on really young kids where I don't have to stick something up their nose because I can see it in 3 dimensions. And so he begs me to send them for him, and he loves them. And again, I got no vested interest in selling anybody a CBCT. But the loudest voices against CBCT are those who don't have them. That's
exactly
the loudest voices. And so, but going back to our question on practice management, what's the biggest mistake you see teams or doctors make when they have a CBCT by active omission or active commission, like what they don't do or what they do once they have a CBCT that they should change?
Great question. So, and this kind of relates to a little bit about my lecture at OrthoPreneurs next year, called taking the Ferrari out of the garage. That's what they do. They buy the Ferrari and they leave it in the garage. For instance, there's practitioners that will buy a CBCT and then take this beautiful 3D image that they can show the patient, but instead they dumb that image down to literally they carve out a 2D pan and a 2D ceph out of the 3D image and do their consult on that with the patient. And it happens all the time. And to me, get the Ferrari out of the garage, front and center, yet show that patient their dentition in 3D. Also, where are the roots? Well, here they are. Why dumb it back down to that and then try to explain? Show the tonsils and adenoids. Show all that to them. That's what you have a tool that does this for you. Share it with your patient.
Now, you taught me something when I first started with this. You said, would you ever go from a 4K monitor back to a tube television?
Exactly.
Right? And I didn't understand what you were talking about at the time. And then I got the CBCT. And I will be honest with you and say I go straight to my 3D analysis first, but I
Hmm.
always like to go back to my pan and my Ceph.
Just
Um,
because it's carved into your orthodontic brain,
it is
that's what you grew up with. It's
right.
hard to, yeah, uh-huh.
If I want to see where the lower teeth are tipped relative to the mandible, it's a very quick, easy image to look at on a lateral ceph. If I want to
Hmm.
see where my nose and my lip and my chin is relative to just a static image, it's a nice, quick. It takes all of 3 seconds for me to look at, and
Hmm.
I do make that a part of most of my diagnosis. But
Hmm.
rolling through all three planes, right, coronal, sagittal, axial, and looking and seeing what am I looking at, it really takes 90 seconds to roll through from everything
Exactly.
from TM joint uh, through anterior cranial base if we wanted to.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate you for that and helping me. And again, Ty is the kind of guy. If you're a doctor listening to this, and if I'm wrong, Ty, correct me.
Hmm.
But Ty is the kind of guy. If you're a doctor and you said, "Hey, I really want to maximize what I'm doing with my CBCT," he will happily talk to you and give you tips and hints on how to live a better life in your practice using CBCT for no other reason than he wants to help people. And the other side of it is he's also now head of the Ramsey Consulting Group. Is that what you are
Hmm.
now?
Hmm. Ramsey
And
Consulting Group,
so
yes.
do you want to talk a little bit about, as we mentioned, I put you in touch with somebody who was part of a large broker service that
Hmm.
dealt with, OSOs and DSOs because I felt you'd represent people well. It didn't work
Hmm.
out there, but
Hmm.
you saw the writing on the wall and said, "Hey, I really think I can help people."
Yeah.
And talk a little bit now because you've been doing this full time.
Hmm.
What is
Hmm.
it you do? What kind of services do you offer? And again,
Hmm.
I have no part of his company whatsoever, folks. So
Yeah.
I just want him to have the opportunity to tell a story.
Yeah, well, I do a number of different things based on all the experiences I've had. I do some sales coaching, some sales mentoring. I'm a little bit in the 3D printing space. I can help advise orthodontic practices on various kinds of 3D printers. But most of my time has been spent and I'm a little bit in the cybersecurity space. I have some people that I refer to in that regard. But most of my time has been spent in the mergers and acquisitions and practice transition space. I'm an independent consultant. I am not directly employed by any practice transition or mergers and acquisitions firm. However, I've partnered with a number of them that think of me as a broker for the brokers. So my job, I have a note here just quickly on the process. The process that I would go through. My job would be to have an initial meeting with a doctor who thought he might want to look at partnering, selling, whatever the case may be. And that is different, by the way, partnering and selling. And then I will match him with one or two of the firms that I think best fits his or her needs. And the doctor's the fee that he ends up paying for this service is in no way negatively affected by me being involved. I am a front end relationship, but basically I'm a matchmaker for the doctor and these practice transition firms. Now it could range from a doctor that wants to walk away tomorrow and sell, all the way to a doctor or group of doctors or number of doctors, number of practices that still want to practice 3 to 5 to 10 years. And everywhere in between, there's something for everyone. And basically, I like to start off the conversation with a lot of my clients of, hey, if we could wave a magic wand from now until your retirement, tell me what that would look like. And interestingly enough, it's not always all strictly financial. Some of my clients have chosen paths that were not the highest amount of dollars, but they chose the path that improved their quality of life better. Maybe they wanted to practice one day less a week. Maybe they wanted to, take on another venture. or maybe the opposite. Maybe they want to even work harder and have an opportunity to start a number of other practices with a joint venture with someone. So it's any and all of that. But I can tell you, in my humble opinion, one of the things a doctor would want to avoid is just talking to a single person or a single group without representation. That would be equivalent to if your car engine blew up, and you could probably Google how to rebuild an engine, and you could eventually do it yourself. But would it, turn out as well as if you took it into the dealer? Yeah, you might end up paying a little more to the dealer, but that small fee more than justifies itself. A great analogy is, Glenn, let's say you want to sell your house, and you put a for sale by owner sign up your house. So just throwing out a number, let's just say $1 million and for sale by owner. And guy walks up, "Hey, Glenn, I'll give you $1 million. You think, great. Oh man, this is a home run. Let's do this deal." And then I call you and I say, "Hey, Glenn, I'll sell your house for you, but I'm going to charge you, 7 to 10%. And you say, "Ty, you're crazy. I just got this sold with no fees." And I'll say, "Yeah, but Glenn, I've got 20 people waiting to give you 1.5 million. Now does that fee seem appropriate?" Right. Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what, that's the kind of service that I can offer, is pairing the doctors with these groups that are going to be a fit for them. And it's really like a fingerprint. Everyone is absolutely different. There are no two deals that are the same. And I'm a serve first, sell later kind of guy. Above everything else, I just want to help the doctor. And I consider it a win, even if he does nothing with me. If he has more information to able to plan better for his family and moving forward, and I don't make any money off of it because he didn't do anything, I still feel good, because I was still he still came out of the transaction better and more educated than he did when he started. And that to me is very satisfying.
Yeah, it's great. And like I said, folks, Ty is a consummate professional. Again, I want to be crystal clear about this. I've known Ty now for probably about 5-6 years, I'd say. He's always been honest with me. He's always done well by me. And it's important to add here, there are some really good people out there who I've had on this show, on this podcast, who also do a great job. So it's not like I'm saying you have to use just Ty, but he's out there if you need some help, just for education, anything from CBCT to learning more about OSOs, DSOs. And of course, you can always reach out to me personally if you want to, and I can make a connection for you guys. But if someone wanted to reach out to you, Ty, how would they reach you?
Yeah, my email is just my name at live.com. So it's TYRAM as in Mary, SEY at live, LIV as in Victor, E.com. My cell phone is 469-360-1031. And my website is TyRamsey3D.com. TYRAMSEY 3D.com.
There you go. He's a 3D kind of guy.
Yeah.
So now, before I let you go, remember our 5 things. Go back to them one more time. You want to tell the 5 real quickly, so everybody can see you.
Okay, the one I should have been writing it down. I'll start with the World Trade Center. Yes. I was working for a .com company during the .com boom, and on 9/11 was on the subway, and where I led off was the World Trade Center. I was physically in the World Trade Center on the first level after the first plane hit. About 30 minutes after the first plane hit, they evacuated us. I got back on the subway, and they reversed it, which was really weird. So I got to see the whole thing, unfortunately, from about 2 miles away, just across the Hudson. Witness both the buildings go down there, in person, basically. So yes, I was in the World Trade Center in 9/11. Ever since then, my mom said, there's a reason that you got out of there. You have a purpose. Go find your purpose. And ever since then, I just, I felt like I love to help people. So that, drives a passion for what I do.
Nice.
So that's the first one.
Don't forget putt-putt, right?
Oh yeah, the putt-putt. Yes, I was a 4-time DFW Metroplex championship putt-putt player, one-time national champion medalist in putt-putt, miniature golf. So when I was I was really good at a young age. At 9 years old, I went from age 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. The youngest you could be was 9. The oldest was 15. I went every year. I made the A team that went to nationals when I was 9 years old. It was me and 4 15-year-olds. And I was pretty good at putt-putt. The best, par on 18 holes is a 2 on every hole, so it'd be 36. So my best score for 18 holes of putt-putt was a 19.
Wow!
So I made a hole-in-one on every one.
And you almost won a free car at what age?
I did a Jeep at age 13. I lipped out on hole 17, and then I made hole 18. But yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was putt-putt. Don't forget your World Series of Championship bracelet.
Yeah. Not quite. I don't have a World Series of Poker bracelet. However, I did win a somewhat major poker tournament online for around $15,000. Back a number of years ago. Poker is just kind of a fun hobby for me. I mainly play tournaments, and if you can find a hobby that's break even or a little bit makes you a little bit of money, it's a great hobby. So poker's my hobby. I've probably played in 100 tournaments. I've won a few here and there, but I did not quite accurate on the bracelet, but hope to someday. But yeah. No.
And that leads us to number 4, which is cops.
Oh yes, cop. Yes, that involved poker as well. So now in the Dallas area, there are a number of legal poker rooms. Poker is now considered legal in all of Dallas. So now you can go and it's a social club. You go in, you pay a membership fee. You go in and you're able to play poker. And this was, this must have been 15, 20 years ago. There's a large population in Dallas, Texas that likes to play poker, and they organize these tournaments. And for lack of a better term, let's call it an underground tournament. So, they take a small fee, which I guess is technically illegal because it's considered, them making money off gambling. And we were playing this rather large tournament, probably 150 people. And I heard a bunch of screaming, and I looked up, and all I saw was a guy dressed in black holding what looked like a machine gun at another table of players. So I immediately just fight or flight response. Well, definitely not fight in that regard. But my flight response kicked in. I ran to the back door, and I'm about 3 feet from the back door, which was a steel door, and it comes bashing in, and it missed my head by about that much. They had literally had a battering ram and bashed in, and it was that show called Dallas SWAT. And they were filming for Dallas SWAT, and they immediately had a gun on me. Get down. And so I had my hands above my head, and there was a couch. I just sat on the couch like that, and they were filming for Dallas SWAT. So you can probably find that. I don't know if you'll be able to find that footage somewhere because I had to get release forms from everyone, and I think it might have gotten cut from being on TV, but they were filming for Dallas SWAT. Yeah.
Nice. And
Yeah.
so obviously the last one was untrue, right? The
Mhm.
one about you being on a date and having your date, uh, taken off by the ex-boyfriend or
Mhm.
something like that,
Uh-huh.
right?
That unfortunately, all of them were true.
Right. Because you
That's
said your ICAT rep would never lie to you.
no longer affiliated with
No,
ICAT,
Ty
but yes.
Ramsey would not lie to you. All of them were
um,
true.
yeah, yeah, that was, long story short, it was a disgruntled ex that she had broken up with that had followed us, and then when she had gotten out of the car, and I was preoccupied, just uh, grabbed her and took off, and I heard her yell, and I turned around and saw one of her shoes was left behind, so I knew something was up. So I was able to chase the car, get a license plate, gave a description, and then I lost them, but I gave a description to the police, and they were able to apprehend the guy, and I had to go testify in court. And her mom called me the next day and thanked me for probably saving her daughter's life. And that gentleman that he's not a gentleman, but that guy now's spending life in prison. So
Crazy. So
that's
I know that took us about 10 minutes to go through that, but for everybody out there, those are some really good dinner stories to hear from the guy that I figured you're not going to hear stories like that, any one of them from most people. You got 5 of them right there. So, Ty, I really appreciate your time being on here today. You're a wealth of information for everybody out there. You're certainly an advocate for orthodontists and are looking to do your best by them. And yeah, if anybody has questions about anything, just reach out to me and I can certainly help answer or put you in touch with Ty. I'm looking forward to next year because, like I said, in Orlando, September 6th to 10th, we're going to be Summit 23 will be in Orlando. By the time this airs, I think Summit will already have happened.
Mhm.
So people should already know and be able to go sign up. But the interesting thing is you're going to give a lecture to the team track because it'll be doctor and team in the morning and then team in the afternoon alone and
Mhm.
doctors alone. I think you're giving one to the doctors only, which is going to
Mhm.
be sort of business tips from a professional poker player, which will be great. I think learning to play the people, not the cards, is the essence
Yes.
to being a professional poker player. And
Yes.
not on the team track, it's going to be take your Ferrari out of the garage. So whether someone has
Mhm.
a CBCT or not, they're going to get some really good impartial advice about how to really use it effectively. And I just think you're just such a wealth of information. So thank you, Ty.
Well, thanks. I think the same about you. And if you'll allow me to toot your horn for a minute, if I may, one of the things that you've always impressed me with is that I think you have similar views as me. You just, above everything else, you don't have an agenda. You just want to go help people. You want to help people first. I remember at the OrthoPreneurs meeting this last year, which everyone, if you're considering going, definitely go. I will tell you, it's the best trade show both for doctors and vendors by far that I have ever been to.
Thank
So
you.
highly recommend. Huge ROI for you as a doctor or a vendor, I'll tell you that. But for instance, you were the star of the show. A lot of people would, you took the time to talk to me and didn't make it feel rushed at that meeting. And I'll never forget that because you've got 100 people coming at you, and every one of them you make feel special. And I appreciate that about you. And I think that's another reason that you've had so much success is that you're a serve first, sell later kind of person, and it shows.
Well, thanks, Ty. It means the
You
world
bet.
coming from you.
You bet.
Again, thank you for being here, and just can't wait to see you at Summit, my friend.
Yes, sounds great. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
All right, thanks.